Finally, some good strategy and a good race. Welcome back to Fog Racing. This is it. The 2025 Bahrain Grand Prix. It might not look it all that exciting on paper. A McLaren won the Grand Prix from pole position. But this race just proved to me, folks, that what you need in F1 is tyres, right? Well, obviously you need tyres. You need tyres to drive, but you need strategies and you need more than a one stop, right? Two or more. And this race had it all. You had people using the soft tyre, the medium tyre, and the hard tyre. Like you're going into the last stint and the top four. Some are on mediums, some are on hards, and some are on softs. And albeit what looked like the biggest problem. I mean, I would probably say the medium was the best race tyre. I mean, as for the Ferraris, they stuck the hards on. I don't know. Ferrari almost worked a blinder in this Grand Prix, folks, because they went long on the first stint, looking to do a one stop. And then what happened is they went, nah, we're going to pit. And then because they pit, they had such a tyre offset. We've seen Hamilton and Leclerc both fight their way through. And then obviously the safety car came out. And that's the problem. You know, they would never have been able to last 34 laps on mediums. But I tell you what, if the safety car came out earlier, the Ferraris would have been looking pretty toasty in that 1-2 position. But let's get into the Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri led from the start and dominated. And you know what? I actually owe Oscar Piastri an apology, right? Because I said in our predictions at the start of this season, Oscar Piastri ain't good enough to win a world championship, right? And has he proved that he's good enough to win a world championship? I'm not going to fully say yes because it is only 4 races. You know, he could drop off. But if we're being honest, if you actually look at it, he was the fastest McLaren in Australia. And because of the rain, he's ended up picking up a point. Now, it is his mistake, but as everyone's saying, one corner has cost Oscar Piastri that. Genuinely could have beat Norris. We then went to China. He dominated that. I think he'll be a bit upset that he didn't win the sprint or do a bit better in the sprint, but reality is he dominated the race, and that's where the big points are. We then go to Suzuka. Again, he looked like the fastest driver. You look at the race, Piastri looked like the guy who was going to do anything. He was all over Norris, and maybe if they let him through, he would have got past Verstappen, but it's just an awful track, Suzuka, these days for these cars. We need to fix the cars to make these tracks that were once great good. And then this weekend, complete domination. So, you know, he isn't leading the drivers. We'll get to the drivers in a minute, but led from start to finish. Apart from the laps with the Ferraris, did the overcut. And yeah, but just lots of overtakes and drama throughout, guys. You had guys like Esteban Ocon going long in their first stint. So did Alonso and Albon and guys like that. But I tell you what, Carlos Sainz retired, not the weekend for him. He got smashed in the side by Yuki, and then he tried to overtake Antonelli and got a penalty for it. Hulkenberg got disqualified. Bortoletto in last spot. I tell you what, Aston Martin, man, what is going on with Aston Martin? Like they said going into qualifying, they had like the slowest quali pace simulation, and fucking doesn't look and far off it. Jack Doohan I think he'll be massively disappointed to finish 14th, but there was a few drivers when the safety car came out, they'd pit it like 7, 8 laps ago, like Gasly, Verstappen, etc. They stayed out and managed to make it work, but then you've got guys at the other side of that coin, like Doohan, who didn't make it work. Um, I didn't even realise Verstappen got past Gasly, so that shows you all I know. But Kimi Antonelli did in 11th. I think they'll be massively disappointed with that, guys. He was a bit unlucky with strategy. I don't know. I think the Mercedes was favouring the soft tyre far too much. But to start fifth in a car that finished second with Russell, finishing 11's not good enough. It ain't. And I know strategy went against him, but is there really an excuse to be finishing 33 seconds off your teammate? I wouldn't say so. Definitely wouldn't say so. I look at further up the grid. Shinoda, albeit he's finished ninth and Verstappen finished sixth, which is definitely damage limitations for Max Verstappen because it looked like he came at the pits at one point and was last. Very easily could have finished outside the points, both Red Bulls, but I actually think it's a great job for Yuki Tsunoda. And that may sound disingenuous because the guy's driving a Red Bull and we're accustomed to them winning races over the the past couple of years. And then hell, if you want to go back to like 2009 when they really started winning races, I think it's a good race. He's only finished 11 seconds off for starting. He's finished in the points. As sad as it may sound, I think that's genuinely as good as he probably could have done in that Red Bull. Yeah, he could have beat Ocon, right? But we've seen that the Red Bull was just so hard to drive. And could it just be a case of Max is able to find the window much better than every other driver that steps in? And when Max doesn't find the window, he kind of just looks like the other driver in the seat next to him. That's what it kind of looks like, because how can you have a guy, how can they finish this close this weekend, but then last weekend, Shinoda's finishing like 13th and Max is winning the race ahead of two McLarens? Doesn't make any sense, but I think Red Bull, Max may start at 7th, but I think 6th is bored. I mean, I don't want to call it a fantastic drive, but it's fantastic damage limitations because it could have been much worse. Ferrari, looked like it could have been so much better at one point. Looked like it could have been like a double podium, ever the strategy, and maybe the safety car went their way. It didn't. Lando Norris, he's finished P3. The guy's racecraft, man, I don't know. It was kind of all over the place. I know he had a penalty, right, and things like that went against him. It was a bit of, he went into first gear and he went past the starting block and it gave him a penalty. But I just look at this guy's driving, man, and his racecraft. This should have been an easy second. He was P3 after lap 1. To finish P3 after 57 laps just seems very underwhelming. And yeah, like I said at the start of this review, I apologise to Piastri because I think he stepped up to task. And I mean, it is early days, but if I was to bet who's going to win the championship between these two, I'm going to have to go with Piastri. I think his racecraft's better than Norris. And I would have said last season his quali pace is nowhere near, and his race pace is nowhere near Norris. But now, looks, if not the same, better. And then George Russell, I think, was a great drive in second spot, keeping himself in contention, and it leaves the driver standings looking like this. So 3 points cover the top two drivers back to Max Verstappen. It's an 8-point gap, and then back to George Russell. It is a 14-point gap, and it's looking like a 4-car race up there at the front. Ferrari, they did take a bit of a step forward this weekend, but they're finishing 4th and 5th. I don't really want to heap too much praise on it at the end of the day. I think we had a bit more luck in their strategy and a bit more tyres. Medium tyres, they could have done a wee bit more, but they ran out of tyres at the end of the day. But I think we're looking for a 4-car title fight because there's a lot of hype for the Spanish Grand Prix that the technical rules are changing and McLaren are going to lose a few tenths. I think that's enough to bring them into the fight. But the problem is, if Red Bull produce weekends like this far too often, Max ain't going to be nowhere. He's lucky though because he was leading Piastri going into this Grand Prix, and Norris has had a bit of a stinker despite finishing third. It might not look that bad, but for me, the guy was third after lap 1. He had been mounting some form of challenge on Piastri this race, especially when you factor in there was a safety car and all that stuff. So yeah, leave it down below. McLaren, Piastri dominates, but a good race, and it just shows you what strategy and a two-stopper can do with tyre wear. That's what you need. And Bahrain's turn 1 to turn 4 is perfect for battling. See new tracks that are being made and developed. Need to look at that blueprint because it just works. The slingshot, man. You know the score. Anyway, till next time. Peace.